Alrighty, good afternoon, YouTube. This is Hajim Zero here, back with another quick movie review. This one is Convict 762. It's not really that much to talk about. Well, first and foremost, most of the actresses and actors in this movie, only one of them I know of that has a credit, and even that's limited. It was a African American actress I did a movie with. Spike Lee. I think it was She Hates Me, where about the black guy who got laid off on his job, his corporate job, and he's impregnated a bunch of lesbians, and she was one of the lesbians in one of the scenes. Um, Pretty much, this movie is a little bit like Alien, but it's an all female crew, and there's really no alien. It's just two murderers going around killing people. Um, and that was a spoiler, by the way, because it was two guys that they encountered. They don't know who was the killer, pretty much. Um, I will say the women in this are pretty beautiful. I think this movie was made in the mid to late '90s. Another funny trivia: if you could look at the original poster box art, it looks like Riddick from Chronicles of Riddick, and of course you can't really say who stole what because this movie came out before Pitch Black. Uh, but pretty much, the one positive note about this really was who was the killer, because it does play with you at time to time. One guy is saying, he was trying to get out. The other one was saying he was a security guard or something like that. Excuse me. And I knew, once the second person in the movie had died, well, actually, I take it back. One had died, one had went missing, and I knew that person was already dead. I knew, yeah, that these female characters were just going to get picked off one by one. Like they were about to leave, but then they were obligated to stay. Is convenience of writing, just like that. Looking at this, of course, like out of all the last 7 movies I reviewed, this looks like the top one that you would definitely see on the Sci-Fi Original channel. Um, Another good, decent thing I liked about this, and I forgot to mention this one in the movie Cypher, lighting does do a great effect in a lot of movies, especially with the tone. There was a lot of dark lighting in this, and it wasn't dark to where you couldn't see anything, but it was dark enough to keep stuff hidden and to create an atmosphere of dread and also claustrophobicness, especially with this movie. With Cypher, it was more about the feeling and attitude. There were times where there were bright lights, but it was appropriated for the scene. Like right after brainwashing, dude had woke up. It's a bright suburban, home. Any other time he's in a corporate field or out doing some spying, that's when a lot of grays were used on the palette. The thing about me, I always pay attention to stuff like that most of the time, especially also when we get into the Matrix. They did theirs on purpose, and then of course there's a few other movies, but lighting does do a great good effect in movies, even in black and white films. They have dynamic lighting in that, even though all you see is black, white, and gray on the palette. They do have moments where it could be brightened up if it's very, very dark. Like I said, to create some kind of moment of dread, claustrophobicness. I know Resident Evil, the video games, they do a good job with that. And you can, on some of the games, you can even test out the filters on the screen, to create more of a creepy and damning, atmosphere. But like I said, this movie a little bit also reminded me of Jason X, except the difference is that, I think you will watch this one before Jason X, because Jason X is so tied to his lore. It's kind of weird seeing him in space killing people. Even a former manager and I, we were debating about, only thing I said what was good about Jason X was the whole metallic looking body thing. And he just was just flat out hated the movie. And again, I totally understand. You took an icon, and then once it got to space, it became ridiculous. I think the same thing happened with Leprechaun, but he was also ridiculous in the first place. But One thing I will say, my favorite character in this movie, because she was very, very hot, it was the brunette who was like the tomboyish renegade. Like she was the one that was the rebel in the whole crew, and she was the one that was indirectly right about killing, the inmate, one of the inmates right then and there, because of course he was a killer. So it was a failed attempt, and then the captain had got mad at her for doing it, and then come to find out that's the reason why you had died. Um, and of course, this is like classic Star Trek, or it feels like classic Star Trek to me behind the scenes how they shot this. Of course, they shoot the ship. It's a miniature and it's out in space. This one they did everything digital, bad digital effects if you want to ask me. Like it looks like early PS2 graphics, and then they cut into the ship. Is that's the only con I can argue about that. At least when I seen Supernova and people got killed or injected into space, it looked believable. I'm not looking at it saying, okay, I'm looking at some bad CGI, or I'm looking at a bad miniature that has these components to make me think that they're on the ship, and then that person came out. Like, no, you're in a room with a toy with a slight hatch on the toy to make me think that that's what happened when the person got sucked out. But this is just me rambling on. I'm just gonna give this movie this is me being fair, because I rarely give movies Fs or even an F at all. So I would say like a D plus. But anyway, that's all I have to say for this one, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.